This is a production of West Virginia Public Broadcasting.
Support for the Legislature Today is provided by West Virginia University, offering education, healthcare, and the opportunity to achieve career success since 1867. Information at wvu.edu.
Sonesta Suites in Charleston, an extended stay hotel located near the airport, downtown, and the state capitol. More at sonesta.com.
Solar Hauler, supporting Appalachian communities and building on West Virginia's history of powering the nation by bringing solar energy and battery backup to homeowners, nonprofits, and businesses throughout the region. More at solarhauler.com.
Welcome to the Legislature Today. I'm Curtis Tate. During Wednesday's Senate floor session, lawmakers debated requiring court officers running for election in West Virginia to provide their political affiliation on the ballot. Senate Bill 521 would require candidates running for the Supreme Court of Appeals of West Virginia, court magistrates, and circuit and family court judges to indicate their party membership on ballots for primary and general elections in the state. The legislature removed party affiliation from these same ballots in 2015. West Virginia is one of 13 states across the nation that conducts the election of judges on a fully nonpartisan basis. The bill passed 22-12 despite opposition arguing it politicizes the judicial branch. Senator Mike Woelfel, a Democrat from Cabell County, debated at length with Senator Tom Willis, a Republican from Fayette County and lead sponsor of the bill, about politicizing elections.
I've already answered your question twice.
You haven't answered it at all, sir.
I'm asking people to vote from the legislative perspective on this bill.
Senator Ryan Weld, a Republican from Brooke County, also rose in opposition to the bill.
And I've never heard someone say, this court system that we have in the state of West Virginia is terrible, and we should have left it as on a partisan basis. I've never heard anybody say that. I don't know who's asking for this bill. I cannot figure it out because of the difference between the two systems.
Opponents of the bill argued that lawmakers in favor of the bill were underestimating the intelligence of their constituents. Proponents say their constituents need the political affiliation listed on the ballots because their lives are too busy to research candidates. Fuller says this legislation was drafted directly from concerns from his constituents.
Smart. They don't have a lot of time to do a lot of research, but they're smart. They understand that people come into these jobs with an ideology. We don't live in a perfect world where you can honestly say somebody's coming in without an ideology. I wish that were the case, but we don't live in that world. This is a tool to help voters make a smart decision, and West Virginia voters are concerned about liberal judges slipping through the cracks. That's why.
The bill was sent to the House for its consideration. The Senate Natural Resources Committee approved a bill Wednesday that would charge a $100 fee every time a protected bird, including bald eagles, is killed by wind turbines. A fiscal note attached to the bill said it would raise about $300,000 a year from the 376 wind turbines in the state. Senate Bill 21 now goes to the Finance Committee. State and federal orders to repeal diversity, equity, and inclusion programs have spurred organizational changes at Marshall University. As Randy Yohe reports, these changes are being met with mixed reviews from students.
Among the Marshall students enjoying a warm, spring-like day on campus, Logan County senior Emma Johnson has just finished giving prospective freshmen a campus tour. Johnson recently got 2 directives, one after another, from the university on how to discuss DEI.
We were kind of told that from now on, with the removal of DEI, that we would have to reword how we say something, so we'd have to avoid the woke words that are now part of the dictionary that we can't use in any capacity.
Johnson is referring in part to changes at the East Hall Center for Student Success, home of the campus Intercultural Center. In an email last week, Marshall students, faculty, and staff were told the Division of Intercultural and Student Affairs will be renamed the Division of Student Affairs. The Women's and Gender Center will be renamed the Women's Center. And the Center for African American Studies, LGBTQ+ office, and International Student Office in East Hall will merge into a single entity, the Access, Connections, and Engagement, or ACE Center. Tyler County sophomore Gray Howell calls the DEI relabeling a complete waste of time.
There's so many other more important things that the university could be focusing on, and that I know that they can't really control it, but that our state and our federal government should be focusing on instead of just the language that's used in certain programs. Because I understand that they'll still be assisting people of those, types, like LGBTQ students, gay students, like everyone, women will still be supported everywhere.
Beckley senior Isaiah Valentine believes the changes will be good for the campus community.
Instead of being sectioned off, I feel like everybody would be a family. You don't really got to worry about this group versus this group. Everybody be together.
So it's a good thing.
I think so, yes, sir.
After discussions with faculty, staff, students, and administrators, Marshall Communications Director Leah Payne says the school reversed its decision and determined that the removal of safe space stickers from office doors will not be required. Aiden Presley, a Marshall student from Princeton, understands the DEI changes relate to the taxpayer funds that help support Marshall.
Some people, especially like the governor of West Virginia and like the president, feel like people's taxpayer dollars should only be funded towards things they support, but not some of this LGBTQ and gender type studies. I am kind of, I support the changes. If they want to do it as a private thing with their own money, absolutely, that's their choice, and that's fine.
Gray Howell has a different take on state funding and DEI executive orders.
It's being reviewed because it's all state funded. It's really anti-education, it's anti-diversity, and I know that they're trying to make it seem like DEI is like segregating people based off of, who they are and what they align with, but that's really so far from the truth.
For campus tour guide Emma Johnson, the rebranding made her use of terminology a little easier, but questionable.
I think it's just a little stupid, to be honest, especially with the woke words. I know that like diversity and belonging are in there, and it's not, I feel like those are some words that can be used to describe a college campus in general.
In the email to Marshall students and faculty regarding the new ACE Center, it was noted that it will serve all students, but then it included a list including first-generation students, low-income students, transfer and commuter students, international students, and non-traditional students. That would be working adults, single parents, or veterans. Now, Marshall in the email said its mission remains the same, to foster a welcoming and supportive environment for all students. For the Legislature Today, I'm Randy Yohe in Huntington.
The House of Delegates has passed a bill pertaining to mental health. Jack Walker has the details.
House Bill 2347 would create mental hygiene regions and commissioners, overseen by the Supreme Court of Appeals of West Virginia. These commissioners would be trained attorneys who would oversee mental health evaluations regarding required institutionalization for residents experiencing mental health crises. The bill would also allow mental health evaluations to take place through video conferencing. During floor discussion on the bill, Delegate Brandon Steele, a Republican from Raleigh County, said he is the only person in the House with personal experience with mental hygiene procedures. Steele worries the bill would remove proceedings from local control, and said he voted against a similar bill during last year's legislative session.
You need somebody on the ground in your county that knows you and knows the lay of the land, and not a regional person appointed by a bureaucrat out of the Supreme Court. You need somebody that cares about the impact that this decision is getting ready to have on the lives of people in front of them.
Steele stressed that an involuntary institutionalization can have permanent effects on people's Second Amendment rights and professional futures. But proponents of the bill, like lead sponsor Delegate Evan Worrell, a Republican from Cabell County, say it standardizes the state's mental hygiene process and streamlines what can be a lengthy procedure. Despite Steele's concerns, a majority of delegates voted in favor of the bill. It passed the House by a vote of 69 to 26, with 5 members absent. The bill now heads to the Senate for further consideration. For the Legislature Today, I'm Jack Walker.
Governor Patrick Morrisey held a ceremonial bill signing event today where he signed Senate Bill 456 that defines men and women. Brianna Heaney has that story.
We're standing here in the governor's office where he just signed the Riley Gaines Act. The bill defines sex between a man and a woman based off of their reproductive organs they had at birth.
The bill defines a female as someone who is born with the ability to produce ova, and a male as a person born with the ability to produce sperm. So someone who later decides they identify and even transition to a different gender would still legally be considered the sex they were assigned at birth under state law.
The bill limits where trans people have access to, like locker rooms and domestic violence shelters. Notably, the bill can't limit access to bathrooms. That's because of a Fourth Circuit court decision.
The Grimm v. Gloucester decision that ruled that states cannot restrict a trans person's access to bathrooms that align with their gender identity. The law has a proviso that if the decision is overturned, then the law would also restrict access to bathrooms. Just yesterday, the bill passed the legislature. In what was a very quick turnaround, the bill was on the governor's desk today.
I am proud to sign into law the Riley Gaines Act. The bill that I have before me defines terms like sex, male, female in the state code to allow for single-sex private spaces. The bill is critical for girls and women in our state, ensuring bathrooms and locker rooms are based on biological sex and providing separate shelters for rape and domestic violence victims.
In a packed room, he signed the bill into law. He was joined by female legislators, advocacy groups, and Riley Gaines. Riley Gaines is a political activist and former University of Kentucky swimmer. In 2022, she tied with a trans woman for 5th place at the NCAA Women's Division I Championship.
Goodness gracious, well, thank you. I hope you feel, especially you Moms for Liberty gals, at least a little bit silly for giving someone a standing ovation for merely saying men and women are different.
The bill has been introduced for a few years, but never until now made it to the finish line. Riley Gaines has visited the State House many times as well, advocating for laws like this. She was an honorary guest at Morrissey's State of the State. Now, Morrissey says the bill will be named after her.
This is something that we have been fighting for in the state of West Virginia for many legislative sessions now, so this is, foundational, it's paramount. It's really a full circle moment for me, and to have the bill named after me is just the biggest honor in my life, really. So thank you, Governor Morrissey, thank you, legislators, the sponsors, co-sponsors of this bill, these amazing women who are up here today.
A transgender person has a different gender identity than the sex they were assigned at birth. But Senate Bill 456 will now restrict them from certain spaces designated for either men or women. A House amendment that would have allowed a healthcare professional, like a school nurse, to examine a child's genitalia to confirm their sex without a parent's consent was removed by the Senate. Delegate Mike Pushkin, a Democrat from Kanawha County, said this was rushed legislation meant to prove a political point. He praised the upper chamber for its decision.
It's disturbing to me that this is the type of legislation we're taking up and have to have this rushed work out of here just to prove some political point when you're passing flawed legislation that puts children at risk because you're trying to score political points and have postcard material. Postcards work both ways. This was a horrible amendment. Thank God they took it out.
The only Democrat to vote for the bill between both chambers was Senator Mike Woelfel, a Democrat from Cabell County. Many opponents of the bill say that it punches down on trans West Virginians or that it is a misguided priority for the legislature to be focusing on. This legislative session, there have been many bills that focus on transgender people in the state. The bill will take effect June 10th.
For West Virginia Public Broadcasting, I'm Brianna Heaney at the Capitol.
Earlier today, Eric Douglas spoke with Jim Brown, the executive director of the West Virginia School Board Association. The group represents the school boards in all 55 counties in the state. They discussed pending legislation that will affect school systems and students.
Welcome to the Legislature Today. We're in the studio today with Jim Brown. He's the executive director of the West Virginia School Board Association. So you represent the school board for all 55 counties in the state, right?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Eric, for allowing me to be here today.
Well, I appreciate you coming in, and I think we're going to have an interesting conversation. There's obviously a lot of stuff going on in the legislature, affects schools. Everybody wants to be for education, obviously. But before we before I get into those, I want to ask you a real quick question. We just heard overnight that the U.S. Department of Education has cut 1,300 staffers, and they're trying to dismantle the agency altogether. What does that mean for West Virginia?
Well, it's definitely creating a level of uncertainty in our school systems. The biggest fear, I think, that especially our superintendents and our county boards of education are concerned with the state or the federal funding that we receive. In some of our districts, it probably makes up near 50% of all funding. And it depends on what level of cuts we're going to see. I think they're starting to prepare in anticipation what this might look like. I think the way the grants function, it could be a year out before our county boards actually see some of these changes in their funding allocations, though.
All right. Yeah, so this school year is not in jeopardy, but we just don't know about the future.
Yeah, it's really uncertain at this point in time. Our hope is that they're going to continue to fund at the level they've been, but that's probably wishful thinking.
Fair enough. The legislature has been talking about school discipline for the last several sessions. A bill is moving its way through the legislature. So, and as I understand, you testified on that, and they actually made some changes, made some amendments to the bill itself based on some of the things you testified. So, how do you feel about it? What do you think about this latest version of elementary discipline legislation?
Well, I think I've been pretty consistent in my message. And again, I do represent our 55 county boards of education. We probably all fall a little bit different on some of the language of the bill. But the biggest concern is it's attempting to address discipline in school. And really the students that we're having the most challenges with is students that are dealing with real mental health issues. Mm-hmm. And so right now, if this bill passes, and I commend our legislature in trying to find some solutions to a very difficult problem, and these challenges are real and true. The prevalency rate is high. The intensity of some of these behaviors are very problematic, and they need to come. These students need a safe place to be, and our typical students need an opportunity to continue with their learning.
Without distraction.
Without the distraction. But my biggest concern is the lack of supports for mental health in our school systems. We're really not built or designed to address some of these problems. And again, like I said earlier, the frequency rate is just to a point where it's not manageable. In addressing some of these needs, it's an unfunded mandate. There's not additional dollars.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to ask next. I know a lot of these things are removing the student into a alternative track school or a location but especially the smaller school systems. I know Kanawha County has been opposed to this for that reason, but some of the smaller school districts, I don't know how they can come up with that.
Well, the last count we've heard of was 13 counties have elementary alternative ed programs. But even then, similar to Kanawha County, the number of students that they can address at any single time doesn't measure up to the number of students that need those resources. So we're really behind the eight ball, which tells me, based on the language of the bill, these students are going to be removed from that regular ed classroom. They've got to be educated somewhere. Right. But it sounds to me like there's a likelihood that they're going to be in an alternative placement if there's one that exists. But more likely, they're going to be home on a virtual program because a lot of our counties do not have these supports or a program in place. And I'm not sure how you educate elementary kids with some severe challenges virtually.
Especially if the challenges are at home and then you're sending them home. Yeah. It doesn't sound like
Well, we're putting them right back in the environment that's most likely contributed to these behaviors. And again, these aren't incorrigible children. These aren't discipline issues that you can take a recess or their playtime away from them, or I don't know what else. Their incentives don't always work.
Right.
And it's just it's a
they
major
need some
challenge.
Professional help beyond just sit in the corner for 5 minutes and cool down.
Yeah, it doesn't exist in a lot of our communities.
So, along the same line, or at least semi-related, school safety. One of the bills working through the legislature is allowing teachers who have passed training and that sort of thing to carry guns in schools. Concealed carry and not open carry. But what's the feeling on that?
Well, the bills that have been introduced, and there's two. There's one in the House and also one in the Senate. There's more questions than answers in these bills, and that's what I've been very concerned about. There's some, it says in one part of the bill that they can conceal carry weapons. Well, what multiple weapons? How do we identify which folks should be, carrying a gun in the school? There's so many things about this bill that are just left unanswered, and the courts always say we can't work with intent. We have to work with the language that's there. There's a lot of pieces. I have about a dozen things that I think could be really problematic for our schools to implement this. But what I would like to say is there are bills in the House and the Senate that we really support. The Guardian Act. There's the West Virginia Guardian Program. It's Senate Bill 450 and House Bill 2164. They're very similar. Neither one of them have a fiscal note, so it's going to be the funding is going to be back on the counties. But the good thing is they're permissive bills. It's putting law enforcement, people that are trained and do this, has done this as a career, that can handle these kind of crises. I can't imagine a teacher stepping out in a hallway and facing maybe a student that they had. And in that split second, what's going to happen, and just how does law enforcement identify these folks in the hallways? So I'm a concealed carry person, and there's an active shooter. Do I leave my classroom? Do I go out in the hallway? How does the state police, who may never have seen me before, recognize that I'm not the active shooter? There's so many questions.
I do remember that discussion too, that it identifies weapons, not necessarily guns. So it could be tasers, it could be, there's a whole range of options there.
It does, but if you've got somebody with a semi-automatic and I've got a taser, that's not a good scenario. Again, we support and we know that there's a definite need to have additional security in our schools. Just not sure concealed carry is the bill that's going to really solve that problem. And, we spent decades trying to keep guns out of schools. Now we're going to bring them into the schools. If we have a student in a crisis mental health issue, what if they disarm the teacher and use that weapon? There's so many unanswered questions, so many concerns. But again, we have better options. The issue is, how do we pay for that? Right. There's one bill that's in the Senate that I think is outstanding, and this is all around the Alyssa's law. Senate Bill 434. It's $1 million fiscal note. It's this panic alert system. It can tell you who's in the building. Facial recognition. The school's entirely mapped. Everything's aligned with 911 and law enforcement. This sounds so promising to try to improve the safety of our students, and there are just other ways we can do this that minimize risk. I'll tell you one thing that a lot of folks aren't thinking about is we put guns in our school, carry, conceal. What's going to happen to BRIM premiums? And who's going to pay those additional costs? Because
BRIM being the Board of Risk Management for the state insurance.
Yeah, definitely going to see an increase if this becomes if it comes to fruition. The thing is, this is not a permissive bill. It says you shall. If two people volunteer, you're gonna put this in place in your county if passed.
We just got a couple minutes left, but I want to ask you a question. We've seen several counties, I think 5 so far, where the state board has taken over or put under watch anyway. 5 counties. You've advocated for training for Board of Education members. What kind of training are they getting now, and what do we need to see? What do they need to do?
So, I've tried to make sure that I don't broad brush things. We have some counties that are doing outstanding work. We have some excellent board members and boards that are doing phenomenal things and great progress in our system. But, from time to time, we have some challenges. We're just like any other entity, any other political offices. So we do have 5 that, are meeting having some troubles to manage the system. Since I came on board 2.5 years ago, we've revamped our training and our focus. We don't only focus on just compliance, but we look at student performance and academics, finances, personnel. We do targeted training, making sure it's aligned with things that are happening in our school systems. So we're not being reactive and we're being proactive. We continue to reinforce that. I provide technical assistance when the phone rings and work hand in hand with the State Department when there are some issues that they think our association could provide some additional support. And we've done that.
Right. We've got a minute left. Anything we haven't had a chance to touch on yet?
Well, everyone knows there's a lot of bills that are out there. If you actually look at the number, I think we're sitting right now at 245 bills. Education-related bills.
Okay.
If we follow suit like last year, there were 286 bills, 36 passed. The governor vetoed 2. That's about 12.5%. So out of this 245, we're probably looking about 25 to 30 bills. And finding which ones are going to be the ones to pass, that's the critical point right now. We're trying not to get too excited, but trying to stay the course and make sure we're doing positive things for public education in this state.
Sir, I appreciate your time. Thank you for coming in, and I hope you'll be willing to come back later as the session moves on.
Most definitely, Eric. Appreciate the opportunity.
That was Jim Brown, the Executive Director of the West Virginia School Board Association, speaking with Eric Douglas. While they were speaking, the West Virginia Board of Education placed Mingo County schools under state control, making it the 6th county in recent years in that position. That's it for tonight. Thank you for joining us. Catch the Legislature Today Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. And remember, West Virginia Public Broadcasting covers the session daily in our radio news program West Virginia Morning and on our news site at wvpublic.org. We also broadcast the daily floor sessions of both the House and the Senate on the West Virginia channel. I'm Curtis Tate. Good evening and see you here again tomorrow.
Support for the Legislature Today is provided by West Virginia University, offering education, healthcare, and the opportunity to achieve career success since 1867. Information at wvu.edu.
Sonesta Suites in Charleston, an extended stay hotel located near the airport, downtown, and the state capitol. More at sonesta.com.
Solar Holler, supporting Appalachian communities and building on West Virginia's history of powering the nation by bringing solar energy and battery backup to homeowners, nonprofits, and businesses throughout the region. More at solarholler.com.